Welcome to another Save My Thyroid Audit. I am chatting with Stacy from Ohio, and thank you so much for joining us, Stacy.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to conversation. Stacy's been dealing with Graves' disease, and well, I guess question number one: how long have you been dealing with Graves' disease for?
I was diagnosed in March of 2022.
Okay, March of 2022. And have you taken any antithyroid medication since then?
Just I went the natural route, so I've
Okay.
done everything naturally, just some herbal medicines.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so similar to what I did, so pretty
Yes.
much no meds. Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you find me? I know you've read I think you've read both of my books, or
Yeah, so actually, whenever I was diagnosed, I did a search, for Graves' disease and found your book. And that's actually what inspired me to treat my Graves' disease naturally. So I started researching, what can I do? And that's kind of what inspired my journey to go this route.
all right, wonderful. Any family history of Graves' disease or any other autoimmune conditions?
Graves' disease, no, but my mom does have a thyroid. She actually has the opposite as me. She has low thyroid.
Okay.
So, I mean, it does run in the family as far as thyroid.
Okay. And then symptoms. So what are some of the common symptoms that you're currently experiencing?
Currently, um, a lot of the symptoms, in the beginning, those have kind of subsided. Um, I'm still experiencing a little bit of heart rate. It varies anywhere from it'll drop down into the 50s and then it'll spike anywhere up to like 150. And that's just from walking. Um, heart palpitations going along with that. Um, Tired all of the time. And with that insomnia, um,
Hmm.
I can get out of breath just from walking every now and then. Um, I definitely feel a lot better, but with that, I started getting, some bloating issues. Um, kind of, I don't know if it's all related or um, just some symptoms have gotten better and I've gotten some new symptoms that have.
Okay. So some symptoms have improved, some other
Hmm.
symptoms have come on.
Yeah.
And when was the last time you had a thyroid panel?
Um, it was June. June I had just TSH, T3, and T4 that I
Okay.
just had those three tested.
Okay. Did it show that you were still hyper or?
Um, no, they're what is considered normal but not optimal. And they
Okay.
are my my numbers are actually going my TSH dropped like it is going back down. And my T3 and T4 they're doing the same, they're going up. Um, but it wasn't enough to cause alarm, basically.
Okay.
But
And this was, yeah, this was a few months ago. This was in June then.
yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. So I mean, it sounds like the herbs are helping. Like you said, still not optimal
Yeah.
and experiencing some of those symptoms you mentioned, increased heart
Hmm.
rate, and obviously the fatigue. You said
Hmm.
insomnia, out of breath, and some bloating. Not all those necessarily related to the
Right.
elevation in thyroid hormone,
Yeah.
but yeah. So you're taking specifically bugleweed and motherwort, or what?
I did. I actually haven't taken any of the herbal for thyroid since
Hmm.
it's it's been quite a while since I came off of that. Once my thyroid levels got back into the normal range, I came off of that. But it was one of the ingredients was Melissa. And there's a whole bunch of other ingredients that I can't read the names on, but
Okay, so lemon
uh,
balm, it sounds
lemon
like,
balm.
and then
Hmm.
okay, yeah, okay. And
Yeah.
did it seem like it was helping?
Yeah, my pretty quickly from the initial, my the TSH, which I guess is always the last to kind of improve, my T3 and T4, they almost immediately started to go down.
Okay, wonderful. How about antibodies? It sounds like you didn't test them last time, but have you
No,
tested them in the?
yeah, in the beginning, which is odd because in the beginning, so my antibodies, and I was only tested for the TPO antibodies because initially I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, and then it was determined that I actually had Graves.
Okay,
Kind of misdiagnosed, I guess. They were 321. Um, I wasn't tested again until almost a year later, and they actually increased to 631.
okay.
So I'm not sure, why the jump. Um, and it doesn't seem to be as much of a concern for it is for me, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, the doctors usually don't pay much attention to that.
yeah,
But it sounds like so you didn't have the Graves' disease antibodies, just the thyroid stimulating, like the thyroid
right,
stimulating immunoglobulin did not have tested, just those TPO
right,
antibodies. Okay.
right.
So they just, I guess, diagnosed you with Graves just based on the hyperthyroidism and having the
Hmm.
TPO antibodies. So assuming that you had one auto antibody, that you probably have the other one, but they didn't test the other one. Any eye symptoms? Any of the symptoms of thyroid eye disease?
No eye symptoms, and I've actually asked my eye doctor because I go every year to the eye doctor, and he said everything is great. My vision's actually improving. Other than I'll have an eye twitch every now and then, but I think that's more along the lines of like cortisol related. But that's the only thing with eye that I notice.
Okay. So how would you like your health to be 6 to 12 months from now if you could like paint a perfect picture or close to perfect picture?
Uh, well, I'd like my heart rate. I mean, I guess I've never really paid much attention to my heart rate before until I was diagnosed. But I would like it to be, I can tell a difference when it varies, when it jumps. I guess a stable, heart rate. One thing I didn't mention, um, in the beginning, I had gained over 30 pounds before I was diagnosed. I was one of the ones that didn't lose weight during the Graves' disease diagnosis, and I'm still having difficulty losing weight. Um, I would like, you know, to be able to get that weight off, get my heart rate under control, and finally be able to sleep through the night without, being tired and then not being tired all the time.
Okay. I mean, those are, of course, really good goals to have.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, in your opinion, what's the number one thing preventing you from restoring your health? Like, is there a potential roadblock?
I don't not not that I am aware. I mean, I follow, I do clean eating, I exercise, I'm at a loss as to, what is causing, the symptoms. That's
Okay.
it.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about eating. Have you followed AIP diet in the past or?
The diet that I was instructed, so initially when I first was diagnosed, I immediately went gluten-free, dairy-free.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I met with my doctor, um, he had me follow the blood type diet.
Okay.
So kind of similar to the AIP, but I would call it a little bit more restrictive in the sense that there's a lot more things that you have to eliminate based on your blood type.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And are you still following that diet or?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Hmm.
Okay. I mean, diet isn't everything. Obviously, it's important, or else I wouldn't have written an entire book on it, the
Right.
hyperthyroid healing diet,
Yes.
but it's not everything. But that being said, there are some differences between, like with the blood type diet, there are different, that depends on your
Mhm.
blood type. So there's different variations, and there are some foods. that are allowed on a blood type diet that, or like your specific blood type diet, whatever you're following, that might not be allowed on an AIP diet, and vice versa. Things
Hmm.
that might not be allowed on an AIP. So yeah, I mean, either way, you might. I mean, we're going to talk about some testing and stuff, see what you might have done, and if but with the diet, you might, if it hasn't been working for you, not to say it's not offering any benefits, but there's still some work to do. And
Hmm.
so it might be worth at least attempting for a month or two to try an AIP diet and see. And I wouldn't combine the two. It probably would be too restrictive if
Yeah.
you tried to combine an AIP diet with a blood type diet. I mean, you could try to do that, but I probably would recommend not doing that. But I would say maybe just to take a break from the blood type diet,
Hmm.
follow an AIP diet for ideally, I'd say a few months and see. But I mean, and you very well might need to go beyond that. Even in the hyperthyroid healing diet, I obviously focus a lot on diet,
Hmm.
but there's a lot more than just diet that I talk about in the book. So, which leads us to the next topic, stress. How has stress been over the years, the last
Um,
couple of years at least?
Stress was actually probably one of my main triggers that brought the Graves' disease on. Um, I've done really well as far as management of my stress. I was in a pretty toxic work environment,
Okay.
and I've since gotten a new job, much less stressful. Um, the day-to-day things. I don't notice myself being stressed, but I could very well be, and just not
Okay. Yeah.
that compared to what it used to be.
Okay. So it sounds like it's definitely better than it has been.
Hmm.
Maybe yeah, maybe there are some stressors you're not aware of, but without question, it sounds like it's improved.
Hmm.
And how about you said sleep, you're experiencing insomnia. How long has that been going on?
Um, I've noticed it once I was diagnosed. I noticed it, you know, come on after the diagnosis. Um, it would get better. Um, and I think I'll wake up maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 4. It takes me a long time to get to sleep. It's not as bad as it used to be. There were times I just couldn't sleep at all. So
Mm,
it has improved, but it's still, I wake up and I still just feel exhausted. Um, but definitely an improvement from where I was 2 years ago, but still not where I'd like to be.
okay. All right. And then so getting back to the blood type diet, was that recommended by a natural healthcare practitioner,
Yes.
functional medicine practitioner? Okay. So
Yeah.
you have been working with a functional medicine practitioner. Have you done comprehensive blood testing or just the thyroid panel?
Yes, I do get comprehensive blood testing done every year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've done vitamin D,
Hmm.
iron panel, uh, blood sugar markers like hemoglobin A1C. I don't know
Yes.
if they've done fasting insulin.
Hmm.
Has everything looked good, or has anything been out of balance with the blood testing that's significant that you could think
Um,
of?
Nothing that I can think of. Several years ago, my vitamin D was very low.
Hmm.
I'm thinking it was like 17, and then I got it up. Now I'm within, I think it was 80 this past time. I just had it done in March. So I brought that up significantly.
Okay, good. And
That's,
yeah, you're
as I say, that's the only thing that I can think of that stood out. Um,
okay. Yeah, I was gonna say you're in Northern Ohio, so yeah, you
yeah.
probably need some vitamin D
Yes.
supplementation, especially the fall and winter months. So
Yes.
yeah. All right, so vitamin D at least recently looked good, and the other blood test looked okay.
Hmm.
Hopefully, they paid attention to the
Yeah.
optimal ranges and not
Hmm.
because, for example, like iron, for example, you could have iron markers like iron saturation that's on the lower side, but within range, and some doctors won't really pay attention unless if it's out of range, or hemoglobin A1C if it's
Hmm.
on the upper end, some won't say anything unless if it's above the range and someone's in the pre-diabetic. So hopefully being that it's a functional medicine practitioner focusing on the optimal ranges. So has the practitioner done any other types of testing, any functional medicine testing like adrenal testing or for the gut microbiome or anything like that?
I'm supposed to be getting the what is that called? The Dutch test.
Okay,
Um,
yeah.
but we were waiting. I'm just coming off of the birth control from
Okay,
being on it
yeah.
well over 20 years.
Okay.
Um, so he wanted to wait until I was off of it for a good 4 months. So just to kind of get a better reading. So I think that includes the adrenal. Um,
Yes. Okay, wonderful. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, so again, diet wise, we spoke about maybe giving AIP a try. I mean, stress management, I would always, even if you feel stress isn't a factor, if you're not doing so, I would always block out time for stress management. And sleep's important, but the question is why are you having the sleep issue? Obviously, it's not that you don't want to get more sleep. You just and it's better, it sounds like, than it was years ago, a couple of years ago, just still not where it needs to be. So the Dutch test might show some things like having high cortisol, especially could have and cortisol, low cortisol in the morning could also be a factor with the adrenals. And then that looks at, of course, the sex hormones. It gives a lot of good information to look at melatonin, the Dutch complete. And if your melatonin is low, then maybe you need that. Even though a lot of people just take melatonin, and that's if you don't have a melatonin deficiency, typically melatonin won't help with the sleep. But yeah, so the Dutch test, that's a good test to do. Also, to look at some of the B vitamins with birth control, it can deplete some of the B vitamins. So it looks at I know B12, the metabolites for B12, methylmalonate, and it looks at some of the metabolites related to
Mhm.
B6. So it's actually a really good test. So that's great that you're doing that. And so you also said you experienced some bloating. Like, is it when eating certain foods or just random?
It's more along the lines of so after my cycle, all for 2 weeks. So for an entire 2 weeks. So 2 weeks out of the month, I'm bloated every day, and then after that, I'm fine. So it's I don't know, and this started probably about 3 or 4 months ago. So this was prior to even coming off of the pill. So
Okay.
I'm not sure um, what's related to this, if it's thyroid, gut, what this is, but um, it's
Yeah.
definitely becoming an issue.
hmm I mean, probably not directly the thyroid. I mean, maybe the hormones. I mean, again, see what the Dutch test looks like. Uh, I mean, gut might be worth looking into. I mean, that another thing to consider. Not everybody, like when I dealt with Graves, I had the opposite problem, losing a lot of weight, and some people don't lose a lot of weight, like you, again, you just gain weight and didn't take any anti-thyroid medication. So obviously it wasn't due to that because you weren't taking that. And so we need to look into other factors. Again, adrenals could be a factor, and the sex hormones. The Dutch test also looks at the metabolism of estrogen, which could also relate to weight gain, inflammation overall. But yeah, I mean, gut. I can't say I do gut testing on every single person, but with a lot of your symptoms you're having again, and it's fair to do the Dutch test first, but maybe if you're not getting all the answers with the Dutch test and then switching to an AIP diet, that might be another good test to look into, doing a comprehensive stool test like a GI map or GIFX or something similar to see if you have imbalances because you need to have healthy gut to have healthy
Mhm.
immune system. Also, I would if your doctor's not going to do it, at least on your own, I would test the TSI, thyroid stimulating immunoglobulins, and just to get a number on that and see what that's looking like. Because we have Graves that should be elevated, it's usually elevated. And I mean, TPO antibodies sometimes will fluctuate. It has a greater tendency to roller coaster back and forth. So you said yours increased to,
Hmm.
I think, 631.
Yeah.
And I mean, which is a pretty big jump going from the 300s. So, I mean, definitely keep an eye on that. The TSI, sometimes it'll do that, but usually you'll see more consistent decrease when things are heading in the right direction. If things are
Hmm.
not heading in the right direction with either of the antibodies, or really ideally, of course, both, because the long term, you want both of them to be normal. And that just tells us that something's missing. And I do have an episode on the podcast, episode 150, savemythyroid.com/150 on thyroid antibodies, lowering thyroid antibodies, and have a series of episodes that I'll be coming out with. By the time this interview is live, it might already be out. But it's, yeah, so I'm going to be having more episodes on antibodies because it is a hot topic. And you read my
Hmm.
book, so of course I talk
Yeah.
about in the book, and a lot of what I mentioned in the book will also help, or in both books will help with the antibodies. So yeah, so again, that's, I would say, diet. Always, I'm going to recommend stress management. Uh, get that TSI tested, and then if you're doing everything from a diet and lifestyle perspective, the testing does, I mean, can be helpful. So the Dutch testing you're already doing, and again, that's a really good test. And if, like I said, maybe a comprehensive stool test. Like I said, you might just want to see what the Dutch test looks like, and then based on the results of that, you'll be given, I'm sure, recommendations by the ordering doctor. And then if things head in the right direction, great. If you're losing weight, sleeping better, awesome. If not, then again, that's when you might need to eat. I mean, that's a challenge. Like if you do testing and if things don't head in the right direction, then the question is, do I need to do more testing, or are the imbalances that were found corrected? So if you did a
Hmm.
Dutch test, let's say, and if there was a lot of findings on the Dutch test, and so you focus on those findings for a few months and things don't move in the right direction, we could say, let's do a comprehensive stool test. But I guess you could also say maybe to do a Dutch retest, depending on what it shows. Again, that's what the functional medicine doctor you're working with should give some guidance.
Hmm.
Should you retest the Dutch test, or should you look elsewhere? Like if you have problems with estrogen metabolism on the Dutch test, a lot of times that's coming from the gut.
Hmm.
So yeah, so it's one of those things where, like I said, maybe doing a stool test is a good idea. Maybe again, maybe you don't have to do it. Maybe you get the answers with the Dutch test. But yeah, that's, and again, I'm sure some of this you knew what I was going to say because you've read my books, you've
Yeah.
been following me for a while. But still, like the blood type diet. Again, I read the book a long time ago. It's been around for a long time. But within, there's not one, and I say this in the book too. Obviously, I'm going to be biased with the diets I recommend, but I even say in the Hyperthyroid Healing Diet book, there's no one diet that
Hmm.
fits everyone, which is why there are multiple diets in the book. But again, if any diet's not working, in your case, the blood type diet, then makes sense to switch to another diet and just give that a try. But I think there's a good chance you'll have to go beyond the diet. So I'm glad to hear that you did the Dutch test. Hopefully that gives a good information. Again, it's one of those catch-22s with the test. We're doing it you're spending the money because you want answers. So it's not like you want it to look really bad, but you want to have findings that you could correct. So
Yeah.
hopefully you do the test and you get some good answers, some good results that give some good advice. Well, the doctor will give advice based on the results that hopefully will help with, again, the insomnia, the weight gain, the energy levels, and if not, like I said, you might need to dig deeper than that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Again, thank you for agreeing to do this audit. It was great having this conversation. And again, thank you for reading my books, and I really appreciate that, and for following me. And I hope everybody listening to this found this to be valuable. And look forward to catching everyone in the next episode. Take
Thank
care,
you.
Stacy.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you.